Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
Thank you back to America's Heroes Group Roundtable with Veteran Legislative Voice. Today is Saturday, July 10th, 2021. Our host, the Honorable and Governor of Talk Radio, Cliff Kelly, and I am his co-host, Colonel Dr. Damon Arnold. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega, Scouts Honor Productions. And today we have an esteemed panelist with us, Stephanie Kalota. She is a U.S. Army Reserve Sergeant First Class, veteran, and founder and creator of Veteran Legislative Voice. She has many things she's doing out there, and we're going to be discussing some issues around the mission and purpose of Veterans Legislative Voice and the different types of military toxic exposures that we should be aware of. Welcome, Stephanie. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, so, tell us a little bit more about this. What is the purpose of Veteran Legislative Voice? What is the purpose and the function of that organization?
Of course. So, Veteran Legislative Voice, I created it last year in response to the Vanessa Guillen scandal and everything that was going on, because everybody was very interested in trying to help out and try to put their voice in, especially legislatively, on making their Congress people, fight for bills that's important to them, especially veterans, because many times people in the military, they don't feel they have a voice because they have been shut down so many times, or they're just a regular Joe Schmo, and that happens a lot. So Veteran Legislative Voice is a one-stop shop on finding the bills that you may be interested in, finding how to find your contact information for your Congress people, whether they already co-sponsor a bill or have written a bill or any information, and then what to say when you contact them, how to convince them. I have all of that there in one-stop shop in a group page and a website. And also I'm on Instagram and Twitter.
Oh, boy. Great. Do you want to give those those sites?
Oh, yes. So my site, it's Vets Legislative Voice. So that's VETS, legislativevoice.org. And then Veteran Legislative Voice on Facebook and also on Instagram. It's a page and a group, so if you don't want to join a group, you could just watch the page, and I put information on both sides.
Fantastic. Very good. So vetslegislativevoice.org, and then you have several things you can do with Facebook. So get on there and look at this, because the things that you're really talking about, I always look at things from a spectrum viewpoint, so we have radiation, radiant energy, and then we go to chemicals, and then we go to biological things, right? And so there's a whole array of things people can be exposed to. But you're in particular talking about these burn pits and the radiation from nuke subs to K2 bases and the depleted uranium and tank armor. There have been several accidents, and when I was over in Iraq, there was some spillage of depleted uranium with some accidents with some of the vehicles with the guidon systems and such. And then there's, tainted water, on military bases from the BPA. So tell us about this. What does this mean for our veterans, and what should they be aware of about each one of these?
Well, of course, it's dependent on what you're interacted with when you're deployed or when you're stateside, and it ranges even on where you are stateside. There's actually multiple sites, and I have it listed on my site of how to find certain things. There are sites that show you which bases have the tainted water, like from the PFA fire extinguishing foam. There's another big one, also speaking of tainted water. It was big while I was deployed, and many others to Iraq, Afghanistan, and Kuwait, and the other places. Think back on those plastic water bottles. They had them stationed in pallets. So thousands of bottles on a pallet sitting there for weeks. And, of course, there's water everywhere. But that bottled water has BPA and other chemicals that are causing cancer. And, for example, for one of those, it can cause breast cancer. And military service members are 40% more likely to get breast cancer. And I'm saying this 40% men and women.
Wow.
Yes. And this study was done by Walter Reed,
and
by
it's
the
done
way.
by Walter Reed. Oh, my goodness.
Yes. Yes. And
is that on your website as well, the reference?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I'll have that listed there, too. There's another one. As of March 31st, the VA had denied 72% of burn pit claims. And this is including any of the other toxic exposure that's from any of the operations with JWAT in the Southeast Asia corridor. And according to the agency data obtained by military.com, between June 2007 and March 31st of this year, VA processed 15,640 disability compensation claims related to burn pits. And of those, 3,510 veterans had at least one burn pit issue granted.
Wow.
It is very large. So one of the things that's been happening a lot is that these claims are not being approved, and the VA isn't recognizing many of these conditions as to towards their military experience, to what they encountered to while they were on contract in multiple areas. And so Congress and many other people are fighting for presumptives, just like for Agent Orange, that the VA would recognize presumptive conditions related to their tour in whatever place that they were stationed.
Yes.
And there are there's multiple bills that list that. There's at least 20 bills right now. The best one, in my opinion, is the Senate Bill 952, and it is also there it is, 2372. It's put in by Senator Gillibrand, which many people have already known her name for other things that she's done for the military,
right,
and also Representative Ruiz for the House bill. This lists multiple, at least more than 20 different conditions that possibly is related to the experience of toxic exposure while deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, Kosovo, Kuwait, many other locations. And President Biden, President Biden last year or 2 years ago had even admitted that he believes that his son, Beau, who is deployed to Iraq and Kosovo, who was also exposed to burn pits, was likely got it from his brain, caused his brain cancer that later killed him.
Wow. This is just like astounding. I'm so glad you're talking about this because one of the things I was thinking about when you were talking about the BPA, in bottles, in plastic water bottles, not only was it that they were on pallets, but they were in like 120-degree weather, and sunlight interacting with that, and the heat of that that may have accelerated components in the bottle. I don't know, or caused the release of things into the water. And 40% increase in breast cancer. I'm still like stunned.
Yes, yeah. It's really scary when you look at the numbers. PBS had also said that out of the 2 million service members that deployed to JWAT, almost 780,000 had filed for lung disease. That's 31% of those that deployed.
Oh, yes. It was a nasty, nasty environment. I can tell. You probably know. It's a terrible environment.
Yes. I am familiar. I was also deployed to Kuwait near at Ashweba, where there is no EPA, and there is all of the oil refineries there. So at night, you will see them burn every color of chemical in the night, light up the sky. You can almost read by it.
Oh,
so those type of things is very astounding, and many people are in fear of dying before their claims are even approved. And it is very scary because then it's also their medical bills, caretakers, because many family members have to take care of them. So there's a lot of different benefits that need to be approved and need to be fought for these veterans.
Yeah, because the first time I went over, I was with a mechanized infantry unit, and they were grinding the sand into a powder. It was almost like walking in talcum powder, and we were breathing all that stuff in. And every time you had a little bit of a sandstorm, it would pick that stuff up, and you were breathing that stuff all night. It got into everything that you had. And we call it the muck, right? Because everyone was developing some sinusitis behind that. And then also, we had I was a Black Hawk helicopter, flight surgeon, and we were around these helicopters and the fuel pumps, and in both situations, both the ground and in the air, the generators had to be above ground because they would be too heated if they could not put them into the ground. So we had generators sitting on the surface, pumping out all this fuel and everything else that God knows what was coming out of them. But we were exposed to that stuff.
Yeah, I was deployed and working on the military ships. So there's these giant ships that are the size of aircraft carriers that can actually deploy an entire brigade of cavalry. Cavalry brigade, and so that many tanks inside an enclosed location, and you're breathing in all those fumes, and it's a jet engine. So it's the fumes you're taking in, the heat, anything else that's already there. It's just astounding. And then not only that, with the tanks, many of the tanks that was deployed to Iraq had depleted uranium in the armor. And one thing that I do know of is those tanks that were battle damaged, we sent them back to the States. There are many people that had their hands on, climbed all over, and processed these tanks with depleted uranium exposed in the armor.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah,
So they're not even assigned to an armor unit or a cavalry unit, and they're exposed to it.
Yeah, because that's so interesting, because we had one tank that was really, destroyed, and it was a lot of problems with it, and the guidon system broke and all that, and they had to sign something about we were exposed to depleted uranium. And this was in one area. I was in Mosul, Iraq, but we were I moved around from area to area, and that was one of the things that always stuck in my mind. Is like, we're putting this stuff down, but I'm not even sure where this stuff is going. And from what you're saying right now, this is really, as Agent Orange was a problem in the Vietnam War, we're looking at something that is present in OEF, OIF, and any deployment in the Gulf region is exposed to even our first Gulf War, right? We were exposed to different chemicals in the air and that kind of thing from the oil refineries. So this is a big thing, and I'm going to actually be looking in these bills. So very exciting. So vets legislative voice.org. You better go and look at this place. So I think all veterans should be on board with this one.
Oh, yes. And it actually feels so good to have some sort of power over what has happened to you in your life and just try to fight for those benefits and what's owed. And it also is very gratifying for others to help for that. My mother, she lets me know or asks me what else can she call her congressman and bug him about. So it's those type of things that family members can really get involved in helping their vet out, their vet family.
Yeah, because I guess this is even valuable for the legal profession, because you have a lot of people who are trying to help people with claims. The VSOs are out there, veteran service organizations and that kind of thing, and the officers. So this is fantastic. This is actually a good resource for them to look at as well.
Yes, most definitely. I actually used to work for a VA disability law firm, and the amount that these soldiers and sailors and Coast Guard and Marines have to go through just to prove that this war caused this type of damage to them, because the VA forces them to prove it. And it is a very hard and frustrating fight that is having to be done for these folks. And it's a big fight.
Yes, yeah. So what other kinds of things have you seen with these, toxic exposures? Where do you think this is going? And, when is this legislation, sort of coming forward? Because you were mentioning Senate Bill 952 and House Bill 2372. Are they being considered now in our congressional halls? There's so much, infighting and everything else. I didn't want to go into that topic. But
yes. No, you're good. Actually, the bill that I did mention, it is a bipartisan support. Senator Gillibrand also has Senator Rubio, who is my senator, involved in supporting this. So it is from both sides of the aisle for this. There has been a big push, especially since Memorial Day, and they are trying to put through a package for the toxic exposures, for suicide prevention, for sexual assault, all of those things. They're really fighting to get these type of bills through. And I'm hoping it will, hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers, will be at least moving somewhere by Veterans Day. It sounds like a long time away, but Congress always moves slowly, but it moves incrementally because it's just a little bit by bit, but those little bits can make really huge changes. And so that's what we're really hoping here.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of push, especially from 4th of July, and between that and Memorial Day, a lot of veterans, a lot of media has been really vocalizing on this.
Yeah, and as you were mentioning before about the, and that's astounding about the 40% breast cancer. That's like proof positive. I can't see how, even with the, at one point they were wondering whether, and I remember this back in historically, but I had served 26 years in the Army National Guard, but was deployed, I went to like about 23 countries and 2 tours in Iraq, 1 in Kuwait. And, I was looking at it and saying, before they used to even say, well, is suicide really linked to military service? And you start looking at the numbers and you say, yes, it is. And finally, there's some kind of recognition that maybe there's a link here. And now we have this thing with 40% breast cancer. Come on.
Exactly. And then we mentioned K2. K2 refers to a base that was in, if I can pronounce it right, in Uzbekistan. And it's Karshi Kanabad, if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's short for K2 for short. They knew when they established this base in January 2001, around that time period from there, they knew that it was a toxic location. They knew because they already had tests for it, but they still deny service members that file claims for any conditions related to the toxic environment from there. And so there's a bill out right now, and I can at least tell you the House bill because I know they have a companion Senate bill as well. It's 1355. Okay. And this includes, and what I like about this bill is that it specifically says any relation of diseases and illnesses by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine from the following substances. So they don't limit to the actual conditions or diseases that they know that is from the base. They actually just say whatever conditions is related to these substances from the exposure.
Wow.
So that can be always updated, and it's a lot easier. So it's from jet fuel, volatile organic compounds, high levels of particulate matter and dust in the air, depleted uranium, asbestos, and lead-based paint. There's actually a high amount of breast cancer and uterine cancer and other women-related cancers from that one location. I don't have the numbers on that right now, but I do know it's a high number.
Yeah, high number's enough, right?
Yes,
One
I apologize for that.
But that's wow. This is such incredible information. One thing is, we still have a little bit of time, but I think you need to come back because this is going to be an ongoing topic. And now that we're talking about, environmental concerns and, the green movement and everything, look, come on. If people were exposed to these things and we have, proof evidence that things are going on, we have to wake up and say something happened. And
Exactly.
So I'm so glad you are doing this. VetsLegislativeVoice.org. Make sure you go there. If you're a veteran or the family member of a veteran who's suffering from cancer or is incapacitated for some other reason, PTSD, they can still have physical problems related to that. And I'm not even sure whether there's, brain cancer is another thing. Those are physical, but, those toxic exposures, who knows what else they can do to the brain.
Not only that, there's a lot of service members actually have depression or any other anxiety or mental health disorders secondary to conditions that they get that is service connected. So if somebody has a back problem or a leg problem, they can actually get depression because they can't be as physically able as others. They're very disabled. They probably need help changing clothes, dressing. Those type of things causes depression and causes many different other mental health issues. So it's all connected.
That's a very important point. Didn't even think about that dimension of it. Yeah. And
because it's very common for veterans who have physical disabilities and they get depression. Many that have already been awarded individual unemployability or 100%, and they can't work. They actually have a hard time with their mental health trying to deal with that transition. People talk about transition from deployment or from the military, going to a physical disability and not being able to work or do anything of much purpose is a huge mental health issue for many people.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because when you were listening, talking about things like lead-based paint, and we know that lead-based paint has effects on IQ levels and all kinds of things, mental capacity, and so it's a neurotoxin. This is just really fantastic. We have got to have you back on again, and
thank you.
About this. And this is an ongoing issue.
There's many other issues I'd love to talk about because deployed and deported veterans, also other mental health things. There's many different things to talk about to try to advocate for our veterans.
I will be on your website today.
Thank you.
VetsLegislativeVoice.org. You better go there. And one of the things, we're just running out of time. But I just wanted to say thank you for your service to our veterans and their families, because when you help a veteran, you help an entire family. When you help an entire family, you help an entire country. They have got to wake up and know that the service members that served honorably should be honored as well by the recognition of the things you're talking about.